and so was.
Well, I'm sure they've tried to kill Trump.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Abraham Lincoln. So I don't think every time, and then Reagan, when he brought forth a couple things, he was hit too. And so I think but they didn't get him in the head, which is the standard, the modus operandi of the mafia.
Okay, so anyways, so we'll see. That's all I can say. Right now, all we can do is assert ourselves because we still have protections. But I'm not sure that, well, none of this legislation applies to us. None of it.
No.
Absolutely none of it. Okay, it's all DC. So we need to, and there's a lot of people, like the National Assembly, there's all these groups that are trying to reestablish our government, and I think they're on the right path, but it has to build momentum before we can do anything. You see what I'm saying? So right now we just have to, part of what I'm doing is just educating people about what's going on, and people need to know what's going on and before they can know what they need to do about it.
Could you give an example of how you used your card, and, like how you've actually used it in your life?
I've used it for all sorts of things, actually.
Okay. I don't have
I have that card and I have Catman's card, and I've used them both. And the police have accepted them. When I got arrested by the pigs in Lake Worth, I give them this, and they didn't even search my wallet, and they accepted this, no problem.
There's an expiration date on that, is there?
Yeah,
There was?
there is.
Issued January 2018, expired.
How do you get information on Catman's card?
The NSEA card has an expiration date, but I don't believe this one does.
Right.
This one says expired.
2024.
Well, your notary on the back has an expiration date.
Yeah.
Common law, that's it.
Yeah.
Embassy of Heaven still offering IDs?
I would expect they probably are, but I don't know.
Yeah, they have trouble.
There's other groups that are doing it too. There's the World Passport.
Right.
You know. So there's ways of doing it. I was thinking about getting a world passport, quite frankly, especially if I could come up with that case.
About man being
Yeah.
a citizen of the world
Right.
Yeah.
and not
yeah.
subject to any government.
That's
I'll
right.
get that for you.
I'd really like that.
Yeah, pass that along to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause-
here.
How do those world passports work? People use them? You travel anywhere on them?
Well, some countries recognize them, some of them don't.
Okay.
So you're going to have to find out, if the country recognizes it if you're planning on traveling internationally.
Right.
But there's also,
I would check with TSA.
You
see
can
if
also-
they accept it as well.
they like to rake you over the coals. But at the end of the day, you don't need ID. Okay, all you need is a birth certificate to come
Well,
here.
when I flew once, I didn't want to give them my driver's license, so I showed them my credit card, and that was acceptable.
Sure.
Just have my name on it. That's
Yeah.
all they wanted.
Well, they're coming out with this Real ID Act that
I
after
know.
2020 they're going to start raking. But I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe there's Cliff High and there's other people that are saying, well, Cliff High is a computer nerd, and he's got this web bot that goes out and extracts data from the internet, from millions of blogs, and then he makes predictions based on that. And he says that his data is showing that there's going to come a point in time when people will be talking about the former United States.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, and Scallion and remote viewers and other people have said that there's going to come a point in time when there's riots in every major city in America, and a great nation's going to disappear in one day, and that'll be the federal government. And so, but then there'll be wars between the states. So, we're in for some tough times.
Right.
And then with this grand solar minimum and everything else that's going on, we're in for some tough times. I think that, I don't know how it's all going to play out, but the Scallion and the remote viewers, actually Scallion says, I got his future map. His website's gone down, so I don't know what he's doing. But anyways, I still got his future map, and he said that there would be the United States would break up. There'd be wars between the states, and then, you know, a few years later, I'm guessing around 2032, which is the next Blood Moon series. Okay, and I think that's it'll be around then when it happens, but that's my guess. Anyways, he says the North American Union will emerge when the United States breaks up. Okay, think about it. There'll be a giant power vacuum in the world, and what they say is that China is going to go on a rampage and conquer all the way down to Australia, and the jihads will go on a rampage and lay waste to Europe. And then what will happen is there'll be a land bridge, there'll be earth changes, and there'll be a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska. And the Chinese will come at us with an army of 200 million men. And I've had dreams about this. I had a dream that I was in, this is in my 20s, that I was in Edmonton. I was on the corner of 97th Street and 137th Avenue, which is, Edmonton's really flat. There's no hills, there's nothing, except the river valley. This is a long ways away from the river valley.
Arizona.
Arizona's not flat.
The Phoenix area?
Yeah, but Edmonton's flat for miles and miles and miles. Phoenix is just a valley. Anyways, Edmonton is kind of like, well, even the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's hills and stuff all over the place. But Edmonton's just really, really flat. And you can see for miles if it wasn't for the trees. But so I was on the corner of 137th Avenue and 97th Street, and I was next to a ballistic missile launcher. Okay, now, to understand what a ballistic missile launcher was, it's a tractor trailer with one ballistic missile on it. That's basically an intercontinental ballistic missile. And they were lined up bumper to bumper as far as you could see in both directions. So there was probably hundreds of them. And I think I'm there for business. I helped design the hydraulic system on the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. These things definitely have a hydraulic system. But I've done all sorts of things in aviation. I've done structural design. I've done all of that stuff. And so I think I'm there just to make sure that fix any problems and make sure they go and do what they have to do. And what they say is that when China comes at us with an army, remote viewers are saying this, that when China comes at us with an army of 200 million men across the Bering Straits, that we turn China into a smoking hole. You can't go there for 150 years. It's like irradiated the whole country. And we take out 150 million coming across the Bering Straits. But 50 million still make it through. And a 50 million man army is still a very formidable army. And what they say is they're going to come down the west coast, and I think it's through Alberta, because if they went down through the mountains, it would be like brain-dead idiots, because all they'd have to do would be to blow up a few bridges and then sit on the tops of the mountains and take pot shots at them, because that's all you'd have to do, they'd be screwed. But because the mountains are way too rugged, and through Alberta, it's flat. They got a nice 4-lane highway that goes all the way from Alaska to Montana, and it's flat. And so it'd be, you know, and I think, because my sister-in-law had a dream about that. She said that they were, she said that they saw them coming. They didn't know what it was. She said they saw them coming. There was a red glow on the horizon. Well, that's what it looked like in Iraq when we were coming. There's a red glow on the horizon. Anyway, she said they knew they were coming, and they had storage and everything. My brother's really a prepper. So they had a cave all outfitted, and they got horses, and he's got all that stuff. And so they went and went to their friends. Their friends were supposed to come, and their friends were lollygagging around and not paying attention and not taking care of business. And so they said, we're going. And so they went on their horses to this cave, and they said that the roads were a parking lot. There was no traffic moving on the roads, and because everybody was on the roads. And they said that they just went cross country with the horses. And they got to the cave, and they went and put the horses inside and closed up the front of the cave, and they waited. And they said, After a while, they heard all this commotion outside. Explosions, all this other stuff going on outside. And then it went quiet. And they said then it started to stink really bad. And then winter set in. And then in the spring they came out and everybody's gone. And so anyways, what they say is the Chinese are going to come at us down the west coast, and the last great battle is going to be in Denver, which is a big plain. And the North American Union, the capital of the North American Union, just before all that happens, a North American Union will emerge, and it'll consist of 13 states. One will be Canada, one will be Mexico, and the other 11 will be what's left of the 50 states. So there'll be consolidations. If you look at the future map, it shows Nevada gone, shows Utah mostly gone, Arizona half gone, California, a chain of islands, Oregon mostly gone, Seattle, or I should say Washington, you know, a new seaport in Nebraska on that future map. I didn't bring it. I was thinking about bringing it, but I didn't.
That's Michael Skellion, isn't it?
Gordon Michael Skellion, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's what they say, and I think it's realistic, and I think that probably, you know, based on current events and the fact that there's going to be another Blood Moon series in 2032, that's when these kinds of things seem to happen, or is around those kinds of things, and so I'm guessing that it'll be around then.
There's a calendar on the Washington Monument that corresponds very close to that date.
I didn't know that, but that's possible.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that they set in when they set this republic that people don't know about.
There's one of the things they say is that, and this makes a lot of sense, is that when we turn China into a smoking hole, we're effectively going to cut off their supply lines. So they're not going to have any supplies from anywhere, and so you got an army of 50 million men. They're going to have to eat something, and they're basically going to eat. They're going to kill everything in their path, and they're going to eat it, and so it'll be cannibalism, lots of cannibalism, and there'll be nothing left alive behind them, and they'll come down through and to Denver. And the last great battle will happen in Denver, and it'll be fought mostly by women on our side, because most of the men will be gone.
The population control criteria for China has been, limited families,
right?
But save the males.
They've been growing an army.
Thousands.
They've been growing. There's millions.
Absolutely, millions.
That one child thing basically has most families want a son to carry on the family name.
Yep.
So if they have a little girl, she gets aborted.
Yep.
And so they have little boys, and now there's 50 million more little boys growing up than there is little girls, and actually they're getting to be teenagers.
And they're changing that now.
They are. But the bottom line is there's still all of these boys that they have to do something with.
Yeah, it's out of balance.
And the remote viewers say that when the Chinese start going on a rampage, they'll kill 50 million people in the area of New Delhi alone when they go to India.
What about
There's
Russia?
still 950 million left.
Huh?
There's still 950 million left.
That's true. In India, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
too busy burying the other 200 million.
That's just in the Delhi.
the Roman cult is going to be making a lot of money during this time period.
Oh yeah.
What about Russia? I mean, right there.
I know.
I think that'll stop the...
I think Russia in this is going to be our ally.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Yeah.
too.
I don't know how it's all going to play out, but this is just what the remote viewers are saying and what I think and what I've scallion and all the rest of it. What?
It's documented during the war. George Washington had a vision.
Yes, I know.
The nation would be defeated by, I believe, Russia, Europe, and China.
He doesn't say who. He doesn't say.
No,
Doesn't
I
say
think
Russia.
I think it did say.
No, I've got his vision.
Really?
Yeah.
I read it was Europe, Russia, and China.
No.
I don't know.
He says that America is going to go through 3 great perils, and he says the first peril but he says all it is a cloud. Okay, he describes it as a cloud, and it comes over America, the middle one, and he said the third one is going to be the worst, and he says that we're going to be completely conquered, except for some areas, remote areas in the mountains and stuff like that. Well, we are.
But
Okay.
They also talk
We
about
have been.
being defeated from within, which is what
Yeah.
we've been doing.
Right, exactly. And so it doesn't say anything about Russians or any other country. And United States historically has actually had pretty close ties with the Russians. Russians helped us in the War of Independence. And the Russians helped us in the Civil War too. So
But the word says the East is going to defeat the West and the North defeat the South. So that's what's in the word.
Well, the North defeated the South.
that's, I haven't read that.
That's in the word.
I've heard, like in Revelations, that is something from the north, but north of Israel in the book of Revelations is Turkey. And so, anyways,
You realize that Turkey is the fourth largest military power on the planet?
yes, that's
That's
true.
a sleeper.
Yeah, I know.
People,
I know.
India isn't too far
I
down
know.
the list either.
And Turkey is a major warmonger too.
Major. You can go to global firepower and they list all the nations, all their assets,
I know.
military assets.
I know. Okay, let's keep moving here. We kind of got sidetracked. But my attitude is, and I notice this with my YouTube videos, is that sometimes I'm the first one to be talking about anything, quite frankly. Like, for example, you didn't see anything about churchianity until I put out my video. It's actually my brother actually gave me the idea. And then all of a sudden you see a lot of things about churchianity. I won't say didn't see anything, but not near as much as what you see now. And so I find that, maybe it's my destiny to start, because a lot of it is just changing the human mindset and start presenting these ideas so that, people start waking up. That's right. And so, anyways, so the NSCA, you can go to their website and download their documents. I have them. If you want them, I'll send them to you. They're on the Yahoo group. There's a zip file on the Yahoo group where you can get all their forms and stuff, and do that.
Basically, the guys that are involved in the administration of the water supply.
It's the Clean Water Act.
National Standards Enforcement Agency, and it's the Clean Water Act. That's right. They use guys. Tom Murphy's brilliant, actually, because Congress went and overrode Nixon's veto, and so that act is really hard to do anything about, and so it's pretty brilliant. So he's got his own grand jury. What's that?
Even though they put Tom Murphy in jail.
Yeah, he's not in there now, and hasn't
He's
been.
out now, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been for a while, but yes, I think it's because they knew what he did, and
He pointed people in the right direction.
they say that if you're over the target, you're going to get some flack. So,
Mostly it was because of his invention, the reclamation.
yeah. Okay, check out my other videos, Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3, the Churchianity series, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1 through 4 now, Do-It-Yourself How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft, Martial Law is here. I've actually got several videos about martial law. Do-It-Yourself No Income Tax, Do-It-Yourself No Sales Tax, Do-It-Yourself Traffic Stop actually goes from 1 through 4, and I'm going to make another one now that I got from stuff that Boris has given me. And Do-It-Yourself Free Mail, Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo Courts 1 through 15 now. Anyway, so step 3, so number 1 is record all your documents, right? And including a copyright the corporate denial. That's probably the single most important document to do. Get common law identification. Don't carry any of their stuff unless you really, like I run a car right now, and I was saying how I've been kind of fortunate because I've been out of work for 6 years, and yet I'm not living in a cardboard box, knock on wood. Because, and here I'm renting a car too, so it could be worse, Anyways, so get common law ID. Catman provides common law ID. They work. He's a pretty smart guy. He's got some differences with me right now, and he's not really talking to me too much, but that's okay. He's still got good ID, and so
Shouldn't tell him we got a referral through you.
Whatever, I don't care if you do it or not. It might not help you though.
Well, if you do, you may be a peacemaker.
Yeah, right.
Probably got on his good side
Couple
again.
more bucks coming in, man.
Well, he tried to tell me how to do my video, and I kind of don't appreciate that, and so I basically told him, you know, mind your own damn business, you know. But so, anyways, if anyone finds any others, let me know. I know there's other like you were saying, the what was the name of that? Huh? The world passport, but there's the other one, that one in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Embassy of Heaven.
Embassy of Heaven, that's right. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And there's others.
Yeah, there's other ones too. There's the NSCA ID card. It's slightly different than mine. Is newer, so the newer ones don't have the blue across the top. Part of the NSCA process is signing up for a grand jury. We should already be networking with other like-minded people. If we're not networking, then we need to start. We need to work together to convene common law juries, see the jury nullification video, and see the grand jury's video. And we were talking about that earlier with the jural societies, jural assemblies. Copyrighting the name's optional. See the Do-It-Yourself Kangaroo course number 8, copyrighting the name. There's a form available in the files directory of the Yahoo group. And what I do is I serve anyone with my notice and demand as estoppel. This is the next step, and this is really the last step. Well, actually, after that is criminal complaints. Serve anyone who has an oath of office who may potentially have something to say to you. Okay? Chief of police, city attorney, county sheriff, county attorney, district attorney, attorney general, U.S. marshal, U.S. attorney, FBI special agent in charge, chief judges. See the Do-It-Yourself Estoppel certificates video. There's a notice and demand form in the files directory of the Yahoo group. I've got one that I was showing you yesterday that was one that I made up for Joe DeRusso, and it's like 22 pages. So, you know, you may want to thin it down, but that is pretty good. It's one I would use if I was doing one right now, but it brings up the issue of the occupation and the war crimes and all that stuff. Criminal complaint. If any of your public servants do anything but beg forgiveness, file a criminal complaint and send a U.S. attorney a copy. I have several criminal complaints in Google Docs. The links are in my Yahoo group in the links directory. And sometimes I forget to put links in there, so if you're looking for something, let me know. And I'll send you a link, but I'll remind me, and I'll put the link in the Yahoo group too. It needs to be in there. So.
Can I suggest whenever you make a statement about criminal complaints that you then give 2 or 3 examples? For example, breach of trust, whatever the complaints actually are, because that's a broad.
Everything.
Is there not?
It is broad.
So you can't do that?
You can put everything in there.
Yeah, but you want to spend 3 hours talking about that?
No. My point is
well, but there's.
My point is when people hear your information and you say criminal complaint, just give them 2 or 3 examples so that it moves them forward a little. Cause
you'd have to read the criminal complaint because it goes step by step, and it's the one we did.
Is it a crime?
The one we did yesterday was that I showed you yesterday was 60 pages, just the criminal complaint alone.
How many charges were in?
Well, you list everything you can. Okay, it's like throwing the book against them, right? Throwing the book at them. So there was war crimes, okay, persecuting me for my political beliefs. There was violating my rights under the color of law, conspiracy to violate my rights under the color of law, extortion, racketeering. I mean, just assault, false arrest, kidnapping. I mean, you want to keep going? I mean, that's what I say. It's 60 pages, and I just go down the list.
That's private property.
When you file a criminal complaint, the U.S. attorney becomes your prosecutor?
Yeah.
Do they ever say there's no
sometimes
crime here?
No. They never say that. Never say that.
What do they say?
Sometimes, a good example is I did one what happened is the best ones are when they give you evidence. Okay, in other words, when you go to the county recorder to get a document recorded, just be real nice. Okay. Hi, I want to record this document, and they look at it. Oh, we can't do that. Oh man, gee, that's too bad. Can you give me that in writing?
You're not gonna
Okay.
make any money.
Yeah, here's my address. I don't have a problem. Have someone send it to me in writing. If it's a county attorney, I don't care. Whatever, whoever, I don't care. Send it to me in writing. Why? Why you can't do it? And I sure appreciate it. And you have a great day. And when they give it to you in writing, I'll tell you, and you file a criminal complaint, I'm telling you, you can hurt them big time. And I did a notice and demand, one of my standard notice and demands to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. I'm hoping that I go through that in this video, but I'm not sure if I will. But anyways, I did a notice and demand to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. It was back in like 2009. I could show you the thing. And what happened was, it's a standard, it was like 8 pages. It was a short one way back then, you know. And it basically said that I'm going to be traveling in Pennsylvania and I don't have a driver's license, you know, and that kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? And the Pennsylvania, one of his flunkies, sent me back a letter saying if you drive in Pennsylvania without a driver's license, we're going to arrest your butt and take you down and put you in jail. And so I attached his letter to my notice and demand to a criminal complaint for treason, sedition, perjury of oath, you know, all of that stuff. And I sent it to the U.S. Attorney in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Okay? 2 weeks later, I get a letter back from them saying, we've referred this matter to the FBI.
Oh.
6 months later, I'm looking on the Pennsylvania Attorney General's website. They have an acting Attorney General.
Is that right? Nice. Career change.
Yeah.
Well, it might not have anything to
Maybe
do with
Crowbar
it.
Hotel. I don't know.
It might not have anything to do with it, but it's
I'm gonna
interesting.
resign
Yeah.
in case I
Probably
get
does,
out.
but I don't know.
You gotta send them
I've got three of the judges that complained about are being retired this year.
Sorry?
3 of the judges that I complained about are being retired this year.
Well, there you go. If you don't complain, nothing's going to happen.
And,
You got to build a
and
case.
the
You got to be
sheriff,
on point.
too. And the sheriff too. They're all kind of like disappearing.
Yeah.
So who referred it to the FBI, the Attorney General?
The U.S. Attorney in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
So why did he refer it to the FBI and then he resigned perhaps?
The other guy.
No, the U.S. Attorney didn't resign. The Pennsylvania Attorney General resigned.
Talking about a state
Somebody
actor
put a
versus
complaint
a federal.
against them.
That's
When they
right.
referred to the FBI, it was for the FBI to investigate and see
Exactly.
if there was anything that they could use against you.
Yeah.
And when they investigated, they went back and said, hey, you guys are the ones that have the problem. And they probably did something about it, who knows? But the reason why they sent it to the FBI was to see if you were a threat, if there was any threat. going
Well,
on.
you know, maybe. I doubt it. I think it's because there was something in there that needed to be investigated by about the Attorney General.
Right.
I don't think they did anything wrong. They said what's right. If you're going to drive in
No.
Pennsylvania, you have
They
to have
said-
a driver's license.
Let's
That's
pull
a
up the
standard
letter.
thing.
Let's pull up the letter.
All right, yeah, that's a standard thing though, because if you are driving, you require a driver's license. If you're gonna be doing something else. then you don't.
Traveling. Right, he did say traveling. I'll be traveling.
No, but they said.
No, I know.
No, but they said if you drive, if he's not gonna be driving, then it's all right.
Right, so they're,
Traveling.
Never was driving.
That's why they
Traveling
have
all the
travel
time.
Right. But they
advisory.
didn't- but they didn't say anything wrong.
Travel
They said,
advisory.
But if you're gonna
They
be
would
moving
be
driving,
advisory.
That's
That's
what
where
it
you're
is.
gonna conduct business.
Yeah, I'm gonna be zipping through town.
You have to steer your way.
I'm sightseeing.
20 minutes for lunchtime, I guess,
Yeah, go ahead.
just to keep track of time.
Yeah.
Here's the U.S. Attorney letter.
oh, so the complaint was sent to the U.S. Attorney.
It was filed, did you file it and then send it, or you filed it?
Please be advised that your affidavit of criminal complaint against Attorney General Corbett has been forwarded to the FBI for investigation for whatever, if any investigation they deem appropriate.
Right.
Or whatever.
So it had nothing to do with me except it was a criminal complaint against them. here's my criminal complaint.
So what they were saying, because the complaint was against the Attorney General, basically.
Yeah, right, of course it is.
They can't investigate themselves, so it has to be handed off to someone.
Right.
Here's the letter I sent to the U.S. Attorney. On or about the 4th day of May in the year 2009, I sent a non-negotiable notice and demand to Tom Corbett, Pennsylvania Attorney General, together with a photo ID affidavit that's recorded in the Republic of Texas Robertson County Recorder, a traffic stop lawful notice, a non-negotiable notice and demand all corporate commercial agents, true copies of each of which are attached here to and incorporated herein by reference in their entirety. The purpose of the document was to defeat any presumptions they may have that I'm a U.S. citizen and one of their duty-bearing units, in an effort to exhaust my administrative remedies in preparation for a lawsuit if they violate my rights under the color of law. Particularly, paragraph 1 specifically accepts the oath of office of Tom Corbett and tells them it's a felony, it is felony mail fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1342 if they mail a letter to me with any address that I've not provided. It also notified them that my proper address is if they wish to communicate with me, and I specifically stated unless you want to be guilty of mail fraud, it shall be shown exactly like it. And I specifically told them to use a zip code elsewhere in the letter because it delineated a martial law jurisdiction. On the 8th day of July in the year 2009, I received a response from R. Mall, Chief Deputy Attorney General, a true copy of which is attached here too and incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. It shows my documents were received on May 11, 2009. In response, Mr. Mole says that his office is not bound in any way by their contents, which means he has every intention of violating my rights under the color of law, which is perjury of oath. In the response, Mr. Mole, it is addressed to the Texas region of the District of Columbia delineated by the Texas designation TX, and it is sent to the martial law jurisdiction delineated by zip code 76135, which is mail fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1342. United States Postal Service Domestic Mail Manual, Section 602, Paragraph 13E2 states, unless required, above zip codes may be omitted from single-piece first-class mail, including priority mail, single-piece parcel post, and pieces bearing a simplified address. Therefore, there is no requirement to the use of zip code, and this offense is knowingly, willingly, and intentional felony. Since this was sent by registered mail to Pennsylvania Attorney General Corbett, this is his response also. I subsequently sent to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania Office of Disciplinary Counsel a complaint about these bar member criminals, and they proceeded to engage in mail fraud in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1342, making unlawful legal determinations for me, criminally converting my mailing address and my citizenship, as found in a true copy to their response letter, which is attached here too, and incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. In her response, the Office of Disciplinary Counsel, Angela Alien Midas, falsely accuses me of traveling in the United States when she knows that I have never been in the District of Columbia or any of its territories, and she further knows that traveling in Pennsylvania is not traveling in the United States. She further converted my private vehicle into a motor vehicle when I already told her I am not involved in commerce in any way traveling on the highways with passengers or property for hire, as defined by Title 18 United States Code Section 31, which was also previously explained to her and her co-conspirators, but she's more interested in helping out her criminal bar member buddies. Another affidavit of criminal complaint was previously served on Martin C. Carlson, U.S. Attorney, Middle District of Pennsylvania, by registered mail, a true copy of which, together with proof of service, is attached here too and incorporated herein by reference in its entirety. I demand that Tom Corbett, R. Mole, and Angela Midas be prosecuted for treason, sedition, perjury of oath, mail fraud, violating my rights under the color of law, and conspiracy to violate my rights under the color of law. The use of any statutes, codes, this is my standard stuff. Court citations with any document created by me at any time is only to notice that which is applicable to you and is not intended, nor shall it be construed to mean that I have conferred, submitted to, or entered into any jurisdiction alluded to thereby. I hereby certify that I have in my possession much more than $21 in lawful money, over 21 each, 1 troy ounce silver eagle coins with a face value of $1 each, and I certify further certify that I've converted some silver coin into land and consequently brought forward all the rights and privileges of the original land patent. Therefore, I hold absolute title to that land. You're further notified that this is an attempt to exhaust my administrative remedies, and if you fail to prosecute the above-mentioned felons, you can be assured that any potential lawsuit will name you in addition to the rest of the conspirators.
Wow.
Failure, further affiant saith not, red ink on the land of New York. There's my proof of service. Okay, that's my response.
You cornered them pretty well. Hard to get, for them to get away from that.
Right.
That is very
I thought I saw in the response from them, they only had your given name, not your last
all
name.
also, and all of them involved.
I don't know if you could-
This is the letter I sent to the Chief Judge of Supreme Court in Pennsylvania. That was the U.S. Attorney. This is one I sent to the Pennsylvania State Police.
Prior to or when?
I don't know.
No, meaning like in what
Prior
state?
to the June.
May
It's
2009.
part of my
Or just as
administrative
a-
procedure.
another-
It's a
another
standard
one of those.
notice and demand. Right? It's, 9 pages long. Standard, there's my copyright notice. I don't send them a copy of any copyright notice. I just tell them that it's recorded in the Pinal County Recorder, a P number. If you want to go look it up, knock yourself out. My fees for using the names. My proper mailing address under Title 18 United States Code, Section 1342.
And that's always a care of, I guess.
Well, now I do it completely different, actually. I use General Post Office and some other things there. So, anyways, you can see what I did. And
Why do you initial it, just so it's acceptance every page there?
seal. There, that's because I'm the last person to put anything on that page. I own that page. Plus, this is a footer, and it's saying that I own the text. So they can't use that text against me in any way, because I own it. It's copyrighted.
Now, the moment you put initial there,
That's a seal.
yeah, but and if you put without prejudice, they can't convert that to copy this initio.
I don't put without
No,
prejudice
not
anywhere.
the way you send it to them,
That's
because
a
you want that
commercial
as
term.
evidence.
Okay.
But you also
That's-
want that as evidence.
Huh?
The reason you put without prejudice on a document is to take it outside the legal process. So you couldn't use that then potentially in court.
Oh, I use it.
Fitting.
It's mine. I can use it.
Yes, but-
They can't.
Yeah, but without prejudice.
I don't put without
If you-
prejudice. That's a
they-
commercial
yeah,
term.
you don't
That's
have.
what I'm saying.
But they can't use it because it's mine. I can use it. Nothing stopping. I use them all the time.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to.
So you're saying that because I don't put without prejudice on the document that I can't use it?
No,
No,
you
they
did
can't.
put without prejudice.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Well, but I wouldn't want to do
Well,
that
not on
because
this
that's a
document.
commercial
Yeah,
term.
not on this document, I wouldn't.
So you're telling them this is a letter to be out of the commercial process. So you don't use any commercial terminology.
That's right.
All you're doing is giving them a notice.
I'm a man.
Right.
I'm not one of their corporations. I'm not a U.S. citizen. They got nothing to say to me. Anytime I send this, I don't care who it is. If I'm involved in a traffic case and I've been there and a certain attorney has showed up and a certain judge, I serve them with one of these. Next time I go there, it'll be a different attorney and a different judge, guaranteed.
Right.
So this is the one I sent to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. and it's 8 pages, and I witnessed this one. This one I witnessed.
What's that other flag? Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas, yeah. Texas is on the right, because it's superior.
Yeah, it's in the front, yeah.
Anyways,
Is there a difference in the flag between Texas state and the Republic of Texas?
Fringe?
well, this one that you're looking at here, where is that? Where did I get that from?
To
Notice in the
Pennsylvania.
map.
AG, I think.
See, this is the letter they sent to me.
Yeah.
This is in response to sent to the Attorney General May 4th. Please be advised the Office of Attorney General for the does not in a way associate the documents. In short, these documents have no legal validity. Therefore, this office is not bound in any way by their contents. Accordingly, actually, I guess they didn't say anything about. But they used the mail fraud. I complained about the mail fraud. But they did call me Mr. Winningham.
And they were right about the legal thing. But you're not doing legal, you're doing lawful.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good comment. You have to understand their answer from their perspective, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
We anticipate this is the last correspondence we'll receive from you about this subject matter.
Well, that's not what happened.
We don't want to hear back.
That's right.
They can't interact with you. That's basically what's going on. Go ahead and do what you want. Do as you wish.
Let's see, where's that one that was the notice and demand?
And the one you
Oh, right here.
had the flag on was the one to Harrisburg AG, I think you said.
Yeah, that's this one. See, I put it all together as a package. But anyways,
Flag.
that's the Admiralty flag for Texas.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is. The Republic of Texas is the Bonnie Blue, which is a blue field with a yellow star in the middle.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the Republic of Texas.
Gotcha.
So this is the Admiralty flag. That's the flag the state of Texas flies,
I see.
because it's in Admiralty.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's not even the state of Texas. It's
Well, the state of Texas is de facto, obviously. It's an Admiralty. It's an Admiralty entity, right?
Because it's Texas Republic or Texas State.
Right.
It's not state
It's
of.
two separate entities.
State of is mainly like government of.
Matter of fact, that state of Texas does not exist video.
That was phenomenal.
That would be a good one to go through if you wish, because, wow, that's the end of it.
After lunch,
That's what time is it?
1 o'clock.
Well, I guess we're gonna break for lunch. But there was one that I go through and explain everything about asserting your status. This one just it covers it briefly. We could go through the one that tells. Let's go for lunch, and I'll tell you about it afterwards. As a matter of fact, we don't even have to do a presentation. I can go through it and just tell you how this all came to be, because although the presentation is a pretty systematic way of going through it and how it happened. Because I've had my battles, there's no doubt about it. And it basically happened in Arizona, when I was living in Arizona.
What is that?
What happened to me that caused me to start looking into this?
You going way back to the origin? Is that
Uh-huh.
what you said?
Yeah.
Well, I think we've heard that story.
You have?
I didn't.
I don't think you have.
When
No.
I knew it.
Yeah. We'll talk about that after lunch.
Okay.
All right, and then after that, the state of Texas doesn't exist.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because, and there's, the thing about that video, the one the state of Texas doesn't exist, it doesn't talk just about the state of Texas.
Right.
It talks about other states too.
Right. explains how to research. Yeah, that was amazing.
There
It
is
was
a
so
hole.
well done because it just
This
kept
hole.
building upon.
Yeah.
It had a speech impediment. The tall guy, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was before when.
I forget his name.
He was a nice guy. I hadn't heard of him.
Oh, yeah, right, on the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So that's the signature, and that's without
Forget it, man. It was something like that.
Right.
It was
Right.
Victor, maybe, Victor.
No, I don't
Right.
think it was big.
Can you email that out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that'd be good if you could do that, because that's just a card that
Yeah, he
you
was a
print
nice guy.
Yeah.
and have
I
that
have it.
laminated.
I have it on a laminated.
Right.
What's that called?
Right.
This is, I had a little card that I have where it explains what a signature is,
Oh, yeah?
legally defining what a signature is, and also underneath that what without prejudice means. And it basically, without prejudice, in my signature, I am saying I reserve my right not to be compelled to perform under any contract, commercial agreement or bankruptcy that I did not enter knowingly, voluntarily and intentionally. And furthermore, I do not and will not accept the liability of the compelled benefit of any unrevealed contract or commercial agreement or bankruptcy.
That's good.
And where do you do, what was that?
Yeah.
That was a signature?
That's under without prejudice. It explains
what
what
it means.
without prejudice means.
Oh, nice, that's gonna be helpful.
Yeah.
Did everybody get one of these?
I did not.
I can laminate this for you. I had to laminate it myself, actually. I've left that in Canada.
NEPIS is Northeast Private Information Share. So this special is while we're here. After that, it goes away. So if you want to take advantage of the special, you got to do it while we're here. After we leave, there's no specials.
Until next time.
Yeah, till next time. Yeah, there'll probably be another special. Yep.
I think I already ordered this, actually.
You might have. Anyways, okay. So, this is one called Asserting Sovereignty. And then I'm going to do one called Estoppel Certificates. Whoops. Oh, let's do this.
So, here's a question for you. If I did an affidavit of that you corporate denial,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and let's say I've got pieces of that puzzle already recorded. If you go into a court case and you enter that in the court case, is that a recorded, or do you need to record it in the land records?
When it's recorded, it's already recorded in the land records.
Okay, so when I go to court,
I would take
in
that,
any case,
take a certified copy, it's got to be a certified copy of the document, and enter it into the court as evidence, and send the prosecutor, or serve on the prosecutor,
no,
a
what I'm saying though is if you go into a court case and you put it in there and you ask them to make a certified copy of that for you, that's not considered recorded?
No, I wouldn't call that recorded. I mean, you want, the counter recorder is like shouting it out to everybody. Technically, the court, by filing in court, technically you're right. But you know how these bail priests to say, you know, they don't see anything or that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's why I like the counter recorder.
Okay. Right. But that's why I was going to do it with a stamp at the back of the document. That's why.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, everybody's got to choose their course of action, but I like recording it with a counter recorder, and it's been recorded at least 30 days prior, right? So that because after 30 days it becomes public policy.
Okay.
Did you get one of these?
Card number 2.
Joe, did you get one of these?
Not yet, sir.
This is basically a price list. Okay, so this one's called Asserting Sovereignty. Some of this stuff I might have covered in that other one, so if we do, then it'll be brief. We'll cover over that part of it brief. What we're going to learn about today is who you are, how to assert your rights, a procedure that will build a case against our public servants that stand up in court, They'll know exactly what you were doing, and this is exactly what you want. I've dealt with the law and regulation all my life. I've worked for over 35 years in aviation. I started in 1976, so that makes it over 40 years now, I guess. In the late 80s, somebody told me about the two classes of citizens, and I told them they're crazy. And then they produced some court cases, and I had to look into it. And I think I told you a little bit about that yesterday. In the mid-90s, I was in Toronto working for Bombardier on a contract, and I met a guy by the name of Patrick Ellis. Patrick Ellis taught me about court procedure and how to file a lawsuit. I got an email from him today, in fact. I get emails, and we shoot emails back and forth all the time. I've filed several lawsuits in Ontario, and I've been in Ontario Court of Appeals twice. I've filed numerous lawsuits in the U.S. I've taken them to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 9th Circuit, the 5th Circuit, the 2nd Circuit, and the D.C. Circuit. I've taken 3 cases, actually now it's 5 cases to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 2004, it was recommended to me to get some of Rice McLeod's material. Rice McLeod was Attorney General for the Republic of Texas. Rice McLeod had a very down-to-earth way of explaining the law, and Rice McLeod really helped me to understand, what was going on. One thing Rice McLeod said, and this is just the kind of things that Rice McLeod would say, okay? So he said the real problem in this world is third parties. If you think about it, he's 100% right. See, all lawyers are third parties, right? And a lawyer goes into court and he says, this guy did this and this guy did that, and that lawyer doesn't have any first-hand knowledge of anything. And so then he said, this is the nugget, okay? Why on earth would you, let me think of exactly what he said. Why on earth would you submit your relationship to God to some third-party preacher?
That's good.
It wasn't exactly that, but that's essentially what he said. And why on earth would you? It was something like that. Anyways, it was so well said, and I just screwed it up basically. But that's essentially what he said.
Allow a third party to become between you
Allow
and
some
you.
third-party preacher to get mixed up in your relationship with God. I think that's closer to what it was. Yeah. Anyways. So Rice McLeod was one of those guys that just had a way of saying things, So in 2006, I moved to Texas and I got involved with the Republic of Texas. I was elected to Congress for the Republic of Texas. The Congress for the Republic of Texas elected me to be Speaker, and I was Speaker for the House of Representatives for the Republic of Texas for a year and a half before I had to leave Texas for a contract in New York. Recently, I was elected to the Senate. Over the years, I've learned that we're under martial law. All courts are corporate commercial courts in business to make a profit. All courts are banks and leverage the filing fees. In other words, your filing fee, you pay $400 filing fee into the court, it's worth $12,000 to the balance sheet of the court. All judges and prosecutors are getting royalties from every case they hear. There's no justice in those courts. They will slap whoever violated your rights, but it will be behind the scenes, and the best way to do it is deal with our public servants administratively. Over the years, I learned that there are few de jure governments operating on the planet except for the Republic of Texas. Almost all laws are color of law. Almost all countries are under martial law. So the question is, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be a slave? Is there a price for your freedom that you're not prepared to pay? It's really what you got to think about. The burden's on you to assert your rights. If you do not assert your rights, you lose them. Caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They tell you that all the time. The burden is on the defendant to show the non-existence of jurisdictional facts. which is like a catch-22 if you think about it. Because we're under martial law, the courts presume everything. The Uniform Commercial Code that we were looking at earlier shows it. If you go on the attack, you can defeat this presumption. This procedure is followed properly. The system will deal with any criminals that are exposed. You have to go on the attack and defeat their presumption. You've already submitted evidence out there that says you're a slave, or there is a slave. Because we're under martial law, if you're already under attack, it becomes very difficult to deal with, and gets more difficult the further along you are in their process. It is much easier if you attack them before they ever see you. That's why I've sent out literally tens of thousands of these notice and demands. Before they ever see you, it's much easier if you attack them before they ever see you. Much, much easier. They've been good teachers for me because I do to them what they do to me. I grind them through my system. I presume they're guilty and make them prove they're not.
That was good.
I started out by filing commercial liens in 2005. I filed a $15 million commercial lien against the IRS and all the commissioners and deputy commissioners. IRS Commissioner Mark Everson resigned. George Bush had him on the White House lawn and said it's the toughest job in the country. I filed a $500 million commercial lien against JP Morgan Chase Bank and all of their executive officers. About a couple months after I filed that lien, there was an announcement on national television that said that JP Morgan Chase Bank had been fined $500 million. I'll bet you that money's in that Sesta K Trust account right now. I filed a $500 million commercial lien against Wilshire Credit Corporation and all of their executive officers. I filed a $3 billion commercial lien against a law firm in Phoenix and all of their executive officers. I filed a $15 million commercial lien against Capital One Bank and all of their executive officers. I have sent numerous invoices. The United States owes me approximately $2 billion. Guess that's chump change to who they owe, eh? The reason I'm telling you all this is that I believe that commercial liens work and are valid, but you are operating in their system, and they are thieves. Why? There's no honor among thieves. When you go into their commercial system, you give them your common law rights and remedies. Why would you expect thieves to be anything but thieves? I started filing criminal complaints and I saw much better results. I filed hundreds of notice and demands, thousands, tens of thousands maybe, and dozens of criminal complaints. Almost all of the criminal complaints may be viewed at the Pinal County Recorder's website. After filing criminal complaints, I see numerous people resign or removed. 3 U.S. attorneys from Arizona, 3 U.S. attorneys from Texas, U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. He resigned 2 weeks. I happened to be in the U.S. Supreme Court, and I attached a criminal complaint against him to my petition for certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court. 2 weeks later, he resigns. U.S. Solicitor General Paul Clements, Pennsylvania Attorney General, that we already talked about earlier, Ohio Public Safety Commissioner, IRS Commissioner Mark Everson, 2 Alberta Attorney Generals, U.S. Congressmen, U.S. Senators. I've seen positive results in Ontario after filing a lawsuit within 2 weeks. There's an announcement on national television that the issue I brought up in my lawsuit was not to happen and would not be tolerated. In other words, I said that they compelled me to get a social insurance number there. And even today, there was a guy that was telling me in Canada that his son was trying to get a job and they were insisting on him having a social insurance number in Canada. And he called up to Revenue Canada and said, my son thinks he doesn't have to have a social security number. And they said, what? And he said, yeah. And he said, can you tell him he doesn't have to have, or he does have to have a social security number? Social insurance number. He does have to have a social insurance number. And they said, sure, but let me research it, and I'll get back with you. And so then a couple days later, they call up and they say, no, he does not have to have a social insurance number. And then he says, whoa. He says, will you tell him that, and will you tell his future employer that? And they said, sure. And so now he's working with no social insurance number. There's no law that says anybody has to have us, and the same thing in the States, actually. You just have to use some.
They won't let you work if you don't have it.
Actually, you can work. There's a Taco Bell case. There's cases,
Oh,
but
I know
but they're thieves and pirates, and so I don't even try anymore. I just I deal with alternative stuff where I just get paid cash or Bitcoin, or I work with this friend of mine at the flea market. You know what I mean?
The way to do it is private contracts.
Yeah.
If you do a private contract with an employer, then you're outside that.
Right.
Social
And
security.
going back, then you get an EIN number for
Criminal complaint you filed
Don't
against
even-
the Ohio
Don't even
Public
need any
Safety Commission,
Uh-huh.
Commissioner.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna get a copy, I'd like to read that.
I can email it to you. Remind me. I'll email it to you.
I may be filing one too.
Okay.
I've got the forms on here.
Well, that was back. That's been a few years now, so there's probably a different one now.
It is, it changed recently, but I also want to file one against the director of the Bureau of, Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
Okay. Well, I got some stuff in here. Anyways, U.S. attorneys are removed. This happened twice over 2 lawsuits. U.S. attorneys are removed. They will never ever admit that anything you did had anything to do with it. Because think about it. You're accusing them of treason, sedition, perjury of oath. I mean, they would wind up in jail forever. And so probably what's happening is somebody's going and talking to them, and they're saying, you know what, I think it's time for me to retire.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably what's happening. I don't know, but, you know, the Pennsylvania Attorney General, you know, who knows? But they eased his butt out of there. I've seen positive results when Alberto Gonzalez resigned less than 2 weeks after I filed a petition for a writ of certiorari with a criminal complaint against him attached with the U.S. Supreme Court, and he said he was hiring attorneys to defend him from the U.S. Department of Justice in his resignation announcement. I have filed criminal complaints against the court clerk for addressing mail to me with a zip code, and the clerk disappears, and all future mail does not include a zip code. This is a procedure that I developed over the last 7 years. It's actually Rice McLeod's procedure, but I kind of tweaked it and adjusted it and done things. I send a registered letter to my public servant. When my public servant violates my rights, I file a criminal complaint against him and send it to his boss. After 30 days, I make up another criminal complaint naming my public servant and his boss as a co-conspirator and accomplice after the fact and send it to the next guy up the chain of command. After 30 days, I make up another criminal complaint naming my public servant and his boss as co-conspirator and accomplice after the fact, and their boss's boss as co-conspirator and accomplice after the fact, and send it to the next guy up the chain of command. I keep going up the chain of command right up to the President of the United States or the bitch, and I always make sure they get a copy. I always record the criminal complaints because after 30 days it becomes public policy, which is you can make your own regulations.
What effect in the real world does that have? Why would we do that? And like, what's the mechanism? Why would we want that? What can we do with it?
Well, first of all, if they are criminals, they get eased out of there, someone else gets brought in,
Right.
and they get education about what they're supposed to be doing and not doing.
Right.
If they're not criminals, the investigation reveals that. You see what I'm saying? There's obviously, it creates an investigation.
So you say it's like a regulation. So what's the purpose of it being a regulation? It's regulating their behavior.
Because they have to recognize it.
They can't say they never got it.
That's right. It's like in their face big time.
Do you advise them you do it? that you recorded?
Technically, you know, I've heard that there's people on Wall Street and different places in D.C. that check all the counter recorders for all the new filings and see what they are. I don't think you have to advise anybody of anything, because I think they go and find them and realize, oh, we've got a problem here that we have to deal with. That's what I've heard.
What do you think, if people audit the recorders? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily audit the recorders, just review all the recordings.
See what factors into whatever
See
they're
what
doing.
somebody's complaining about, if there's criminal complaints. I mean, the land title transfers and stuff like that is one thing, but there's a miscellaneous category, and there's people filing into
Right,
that.
how about public record pops up and we can't go to closing, quote unquote, until you fix it.
Right? That too.
Things of that nature.
Sure. Could be any number of things. Technically, they're all supposed to record anything, but many times they give you a hard time depending on who's running it and whether they have a problem perjuring their oath. Some counties will literally record anything, and I told you about Pinal County. When I send them a notice of demand, usually I get no response at all. That means they have acquiesced. If there's something that you're saying that's not true, then they have a duty to point it out. They rarely respond. Silence can only be equated with fraud when there's a legal or moral duty to speak, or when an inquiry left unanswered would be intentionally misleading. We cannot condone the shocking conduct. If that is the case, we hope our message is clear. This sort of deception will not be tolerated, and if this is routine, it should be corrected immediately. And that's that's actually not the Supreme Court, that's the federal court, U.S. versus Tweal, but that case actually went to the Supreme Court.
There's another case, Tweal cites is U.S. versus Pruden.
Right.
Which is where that site quote originally came from, just for reference.
Okay, that's good to know. Fraud is an intentional perversion of the truth for the purpose of inducing another into reliance upon it to part with some valuable thing belonging to him or to surrender a legal right. When one conveys a false impression by disclosure of some facts and concealment of others, such concealment is in effect a false representation, and that what is disclosed is the whole truth. Suppression of a material fact which a party is bound in good faith to disclose is equivalent to a false representation. Fraud and deceit may arise from silence, where there is a duty to speak the truth, as well as from speaking an untruth. Where a relation of trust or confidence exists between two parties so that one places peculiar reliance and trustworthiness of another, the latter is under a duty to make truth and full and truthful disclosure of all material facts and is liable for misrepresentation or concealment. Concealing a material fact when there's a duty to disclose may be actionable fraud. Fraud may be committed by a failure to speak when the duty of speaking is imposed as much by speaking falsely. So some of the positive responses, I get positive responses, but they're usually the exception instead of the rule. But some of the positive responses, one of the first documents I sent out was the Pinal County Recorder in Arizona. She sent a very short letter back saying, "Thank you for your document. I put it on file for future reference," and she signed it personally, and it was signed most respectfully.
Right. Well, what do you think? You might get like 5% responses, if that?
If that.
Yeah.
But
Sounds
it's
Typical of a lawyer,
it's
actually.
yeah. Well, let's face it. It's either they grovel or they give evidence against you. It's one or the other.
right.
She groveled. That's okay. But if they give evidence that they do anything but grovel, they're giving evidence against you.
Right. Right.
The evidence not against you, evidence against them.
Right. That's why you like them to respond.
Yeah, but they're liars too. Okay, so and liars are smart enough not to say anything. A positive response: the judge in Texas sent me a certified copy of his oath of office and surety bond. Well, I would never heard a judge like that. He's saying, "I stand naked before you."
Yeah, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to treat you fairly.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you go before that, Judge?
No, this was Johnson County. And this was like 2006, 2007, so I don't even know if that judge is still in power or not.
He was probably an old man to begin with.
Could have.
Probably a holdover from a long time ago.
Could have, who knows. The Edmonton City Police sent me a letter acknowledging receipt of the document. That's what the Edmonton City Police sent. Whoops.
Oh, I've gotten.
Says, this will confirm your letter was received by the Professional Standards Branch. I've reviewed the contents of your letter. Note that there's no articulated complaints of misconduct or complaints of service with respect to any member of the Edmonton Police Service and in relation to the policies and procedures of the Edmonton Public Service or Police Service. As such, this matter is classified as information only and is now concluded. So it's just a short letter saying, yeah, we got it, and since there's no complaints here, thank you for your letter and have a good day. Right?
What's the title of the person who signed it?
Staff Sergeant, Professional Standards Branch. And they sent a copy to the Edmonton Police Commission. The U.S. Solicitor General sent me a letter acknowledging my notice and demand. And there's the U.S. Solicitor General's letter. Notice how I told them how to spell my name and address, and they did it exactly correct.
Did they?
Thank you for your correspondence received June 8, 2010. The task of the Office of Solicitor General is to supervise and conduct government litigation in the United States Supreme Court. The Solicitor General determines the cases in which Supreme Court review will be sought by the government and the position the government will take before the court. The office also reviews all cases decided adversely to the government in the lower courts to determine whether they should be appealed, and if so, what position should be taken. In your letter, you asked the Solicitor General's signature acknowledging your request. Due to our mission, as stated above, the Office of Solicitor General does not honor such requests. Again, thank you for your correspondence. So, the interesting thing here is that the Solicitor General office was created in 1878, I think, 1871, right around in that time frame. Prior to that, it was the U.S. Attorney General's job to respond for all litigation, and it talks about that in the Judiciary Act of 1789. And so if you think about it, what happened is the D.C. Corporation was created in 1871, so the U.S. Solicitor General works for the D.C. Corporation. The U.S. Attorney General still is supposed to work for the United States of America. And so in my last petition to the U.S. Supreme Court, that's what I did. It was quite interesting because I filed a petition. The clerk made me do a certiorari. I tried to petition for a writ of error, and the clerk basically forced me to do a certiorari. So I filed a, I sent one of my nastygrams, remember the
MF letter?
the intervention videos. Well, the clerk of the court was one of the ones that got the nastygram. And, but so anyways, in the last one, I sent, you're supposed to, in the rules it says you're supposed to serve the Attorney General, or the Solicitor General, right? Well, I didn't serve the Solicitor General, I served the Attorney General. And the time actually ran out for them to respond. And it was a few days after, and the Solicitor General responded. So that tells me that the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, has no intention. Matter of fact, he went and I think it was Jeff Sessions, and he was using a pseudonym because of the name that they use. They do that sometimes. Like one time, I sent a letter to the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court of Arizona, and I got a letter back from Patience Huntwork. Okay? Patience Huntwork. That sounds like a pseudonym to me. And it was probably the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court responding. You know what I mean? And but she can't respond, or feels like she can't, so she wants to do it anonymously, or from Patience Huntwork, her executive secretary. Anyways, so the name that the Solicitor General gave me, I could find it. I got it in my computer here. Let's see if I can find it. Go here. There we go. There we go. Jeffrey B. Wall, acting. Yeah, well, Jeff Sessions, right? Jeffrey B. Wall. It sounds like a pseudonym to me, but acting. Is it acting Solicitor General?
Could be acting for about an hour to write their letter and
Yeah.
no longer acting.
Yeah, and they waived their right to respond, which is a standard response that I've gotten every
His
time.
name's in all caps down there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Jeffrey B.
But it's Glenn Winningham.
Sessions.
It's Glenn Winningham.
Yeah, but all caps.
It is all caps. You're right.
It's actually Winningham.
Winningham, comma, Glenn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's a pseudonym. Anyways, this is my petition for certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court. Anyway, so back to this.
That's appearing on licenses now.
Hopefully the Attorney General is doing more than just responding to this.
Oh, I think he is. I mean,
we hope he is.
he's behind the scenes. You know, he's kind of in a difficult position because he's basically, you know, Trump, they can kill him. And they try, but he's got all this protection. But does the Attorney General have the same kind of protection? I don't think so. And so then he's basically ramrodding all of the stuff that's going on that at Trump's behest, and he's got to turn it over to these U.S. attorneys and assistant U.S. attorneys, and so when they went and appointed that guy out in Utah,
Or,
huh?
Or I think, was it Or? His last name, Or?
No,
He's take over some kind of
he's one of the deep state. I think he's turned and singing. But no, it was another guy. It was a guy out in Utah. I think that, and he's like a bloodhound. And I think that they can't stop that kind of stuff.
Horowitz?
Hubert. But anyways, so Sessions basically just has to appoint people and have them do it. You see what I'm saying?
Right, so
And
don't come after him.
so they really can't come after him. It won't do him any good. Anyways, so for what that's worth. And there it is up big. Negative responses. The Pennsylvania Attorney General sent a letter making all sorts of legal determinations and presumptions and said they would enforce their law. On March 2010, I filed a criminal complaint and sent it to the Chief Judge of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and the U.S. Attorney. The U.S. Attorney sent me a letter back saying they were referring to the matter to the FBI. And on 22nd February 2011, I checked the Pennsylvania Attorney General's website, and it says, William H. Ryan, Jr. becomes acting Pennsylvania Attorney General. And there's the website. They have an acting Attorney General. So when they have an acting official, it's because the other one left before his term was up, and until they can have an election or do whatever they do
Next in line,
That's right.
assent.
The Attorney General take presidential appointment?
Well, the Pennsylvania, not the Pennsylvania Attorney General. That'd be it could be the governor. Yes.
Right, it would be
But they're elected. All these attorney generals are elected, and so it's hard to say how they would handle it. It might wait till the next election.
You got to look in the state charter to address those things, just like the county charter does.
Right. It might be the next election. See, there he is. Negative responses. The Ohio Director of Public Safety, Henry Guzman, sent me a letter making all sorts of legal determinations and presumptions. In August 2009, I filed a criminal complaint and sent it to the Ohio Attorney General, and the Chief Judge of the Ohio Supreme Court and the State Bar U.S. Attorney, etc. On 22nd of February 2011, I checked the Ohio Public Safety website, and it says that in January of 2011, Thomas P. Charles was appointed Ohio Director of Public Safety, and Thomas P. Charles was formerly the Ohio Inspector General. So, you know, that tells me that they wanted someone in there that knew the law and would do it properly. You see what I'm saying? Because the Inspector General is the guy that enforces everything. He's like the police in the police department.
They're the auditors.
Yeah, exactly. And so, let me see if I can find that Ohio.
Down in Florida, you can't fully complain about a judge because if you do, to their judicial qualifications, then you cannot post any information anywhere about that case. So they basically make it a secret situation. All complaints about a judge are kept in secret if it goes to the Judicial Qualifications Committee. And so it really, they've made it an offense if you make a public statement about that complaint.
Okay, this is my criminal complaint. Is there anything attached? Let me just go down to the end here. Oh, it's just proof of service, and that's it. Okay, it says, on or about the 15th of July, 2009, I sent by registered mail a non-negotiable notice of demand, a photo ID affidavit, a traffic stop lawful notice, and a notice in demand to all corporate commercial agents. The purpose of the documents was, it's basically the same as the other one that I said about the Pennsylvania Attorney General. And so we'll skip down here. In response, John R. Golden proceeds to criminally convert my private conveyance into a motor vehicle and criminally convert me into a person, which means he has every intention of violating my rights under the color of law. In response, criminally converts my name by using this all block capital letters on the envelope, which is a usufruct, created by fraud by the perjurers in the U.S. Congress by making it against public policy to pay a debt. See, I'm not sure. I probably should have left that stuff out. And then circulating promissory notes and payments of debt. John R. Golden knows that a common law proper name is never spelt in all block capital letters. The response of R. Mull is addressed in the Texas region of the District of Columbia is delineated by TX as found in the Domestic Mail Manual. So that's about it. And let me see if what's... I'm just looking for I sent him an invoice. I don't see, I could have it in here, but I don't see it off the top of my head. I got the notice and demand, but I'm curious about the invoice. Let's see what the invoice shows. Usually that'll have a copy. Oh, here's the letter. Here's the letter they sent me.
All that markup on it?
Yeah, well, that's my invoice. You want to read, and I have a video on this. It's, Dear valued customer,
That's cute.
It's come to my attention that you're in receipt of some goods and or services that are mine, to wit, violations as listed below, copy of documents attached which were noticed, that $1 million per violation per person, $10 million for 3 or more violations per year would be charged. So it's $10 million for Glenn Fern, all block capital letters, one time on the envelope. And then $10 million for criminal conversion of my citizenship, and then the next one is for unlawful legal determination, and then the next one is for representing me without authority. So that's $30 million. No, and then for copyright violations, so that's $40 million just for that name on the envelope. And so that's how I basically, and it came to $260 million. And then it goes on, it says, due to the sensitive nature by your position, I recommend we communicate in code. So if it's your desire for me to act as your agent in drafting payment, then simply do nothing other than pay with one of the following methods. In other words, do nothing or something outrageous and untenable, such as advocate that we're under a government based upon force and violence rather than law, within 10 days, and I'll be happy by accommodating you. Send me a certified authentic copy of the enrolled statute affecting the public law for the United States of America, Union State of Texas or Union State of New York. Actually, I should have said Ohio. Or does your public subdivision thereof, which gives you the power by retaining the aforesaid goods and or services of mine without monetary compensation for me. Send me a certified authentic copy of the instrument evidencing the contract that would give you the power to retain the aforesaid goods and or services of mine without monetary compensation for me. Send me a certified authentic copies of what you would use to evidence an insurrection, invasion, or great natural disaster that would justify the martial law power that allow you to retain the aforesaid goods or services of mine without monetary compensation for me. Or send me a shipment of U.S. Constitution Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, gold or silver specie pursuant to 31 U.S.C. 5112 or equivalent. That's 800,000 each 1 ounce U.S. gold eagles with a $50 face value pursuant to the Coinage Act of 1792 for the full amount above.
Where are you storing all that gold?
Yeah. Pursuant to our agreement, I can seek relief from the company as well as the board of directors and all executive officers jointly, severally, and personally. If it is not your desire for me to act as your agent in drafting payment, then only pay as directed above by original wet ink signed documentation check for U.S. Constitution Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, gold or silver specie pursuant to 31 U.S.C. 5112. So that's 13 million 1 ounce U.S. gold eagles at a face value of $50, either from a principal of your organization or by a subordinate, plus enclose the original signed delegation of authority to the said principal, such that I may verify the signature of one of several public sources. I, of course, will be happy to compensate you for your reasonable expenses incurred in making such requested certified copies, etc. Signed and sealed on the land of New York. This is my invoice. Anyway, so this is the letter, and so I mark it up so that they can see, you know, what these issues are. So there's criminal conversion and unlawful legal determinations. And here's the envelope.
So what was that about you had up there as secured party creditor? Was that a process you were doing before after you changed your mind?
Oh, right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's part of the invoice if you're going to be in commerce, right? But you're right. I should have probably left that off of there. There was things on there that... But I haven't done an invoice in a long time. Just the only time the invoices really work is against, like, some commercial entity, some entity that really is commercial, like the banksters. It'll work against the banksters for sure. Or like one time a storage unit was harassing me about... wasn't about the late payment, they wanted insurance, you know, and so I sent them an invoice.
They wanted you to indemnify them?
Yeah, basically, and I sent them an invoice and never heard a word out of them after that. And you know, I sent it to their head office is where I sent it to. Like Boris is right, you can't send it to the flunkies. They're idiots. They don't know. It won't get to the right people. You send it to. Actually, I like Boris sending it to the registered agent. That's good.
Well, that's right. Why you're supposed to serve them anyway. They're there for a process of service.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's perfect.
Otherwise, it's not serving.
To the CFO.
Golden is still the enforcement officer. So I got a letter from him.
Sorry?
Golden is still the enforcement officer.
Golden?
Guldin. Down at the bottom of the next page.
Guzman? Or John L. Goldman, Associate Chief Counsel.
Guld.
Yeah. He's the liar. The liars, you can't get rid of them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I sent him notice, returned my license, and asked that any response should not contain statutes. And he just sent me back a list of statutes.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's all they can do.
Yeah. He's making a legal determination, that's all he can do.
So I sent him a notice and told him it wasn't acceptable and they're still in default.
Yeah, he's a typical liar. Well, meant lawyer. No, liar. You know. Anyways, this is actually going off the. That's why I can't see it up there. I have to look at my computer because it's here. Anyways, so let's get back to the original topic at hand. So, yeah, and now this is the website. Ohio Department of Public Safety, Thomas P. Charles, originally from Hubbard, Ohio, began his career. So he's now the director of public safety. That was back in, whenever I did this. I first started doing this when I was going through a foreclosure in Arizona. I decided to arrest the auctioneer because they're selling my house on the courthouse steps. When you witness a felony, you can make an arrest. That's the only time anyone, including the police, can lawfully make an arrest. I called the police to take custody of the felon, and the police started building a case against me for disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
And so I sent notice and demands to the police officers and the chief of police, the town attorney, and the judge. The town of Florence sent their straw man a summons. I attached the summons and the notice and demands to an affidavit of criminal complaint, and I recorded it, and I sent them a copy. And then I sent notice and demands to the Pinal County Sheriff, the Maricopa County Sheriff, that was Joe Arpaio at the time, the Casa Grande Chief of Police, the Arizona Attorney General, the Chief Judge of the Arizona Supreme Court, and the Phoenix Chief of Police, and more. So I was sending out, see what happens a lot of times. I'm like everybody else. I was kind of like asleep until I got mixed up in this, and then it's like a feeding frenzy because they're coming at me from everywhere, it seems. Really, that's what happens. And so you're basically trying to deal with this, and it's coming at you from everywhere, and you either sink or swim, Anyways, so what happened was I was at work, and yeah, they sent a bounty hunter. What happened, there was no police.
A real bounty hunter?
Uh-huh. What happened is I was at work, it was on Friday before Memorial Day weekend. I wonder if I go through this in here.
A bounty hunter's got the right to bring in dead or alive.
Well, they sent a bounty hunter. And what happened is I was at work. I actually left for lunch. And I came back, and my coworkers told me there was a big guy looking for me. And so
Sasquatch.
it was Friday. It was Friday before Memorial Day weekend, 2005. And so I left work early. And as I was driving out of the parking lot, I passed this yellow van that was caged in inside. So that was the bounty hunter. You see what I'm saying? And so I saw that. Anyways, the point is the cops wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. They had to get a bounty hunter. And I can't notice every bounty hunter. You know what I mean? So they like to keep you in jail. It was Friday, so then by definition you'd be in their jail for 3 days. The International Monetary Fund pays them $70,000 for keeping you in jail for 3 days.
Well, they had to have a judgment on you to assign a bounty hunter.
How do you know that?
Huh?
That the IMF pays them 70,000.
That's just something I heard. Yeah.
Hearsay.
My coworkers told me that the big guy was looking for me. I left work early that day and decided to take a week's vacation. Actually, when I got home, I called up my boss and said I need to take a week's vacation. So Monday was a holiday because it's Memorial Day weekend. I was I was already preparing a lawsuit. I was already preparing this lawsuit. So over the weekend, I finished up the lawsuit and filed it on Tuesday. Okay? And then I sent another notice and demand to the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court, and I said that there's a criminal racketeering enterprise operating in the town of Florence, and that they had sent out their hired thugs looking for me under a warrant for arrest for their straw man vessel, and I demanded that the Chief Judge of the Supreme Court quash the warrant for the arrest of the straw man vessel because, quote, we all know that the corporate commercial agents, the police in brackets, are too stupid to tell the difference between a straw man vessel and a sovereign living soul. Unquote. And I said, furthermore, I said, I filed this lawsuit number, and here's the case number.
Right, so you could-
And if you fail to quash the warrant for the arrest of this straw man vessel, it will be further proof of your dereliction of duty to regulate your subordinates. And she didn't quash the warrant, but she did something, because they never ever came to my work looking for me after that. And after my vacation, I went to work, and nobody ever came looking for me. The Attorney General responded for the Chief Judge. Actually, I sued the Attorney General and the Chief Judge, and so the Attorney General responded for themselves. It was an Assistant Attorney General. The Assistant Attorney General responded for the Attorney General and the Chief Judge, and in their response, they said it's perfectly appropriate that I petition the Chief Judge to get the warrant quashed. And then what happened is, and this is interesting, because the Assistant Attorney General called me a person. And in my lawsuit, I said I'm not a person. And if anybody accuses me or falsely accuses me of being a person, they're going to be guilty of treason, sedition, etc., right? And she called me a person. It was a lady. She called me a person, a plaintiff, right? That's a person. And so I immediately filed a criminal complaint against her. I recorded it in the counter recorder, and then I filed it into the case. And the next document, the very next document she files into that case, she says, I've been transferred to another department. Somebody else is handling this matter. Serious. I mean, this is powerful stuff. When you really know what to do, it's powerful.
Even more powerful when you collect part of that $2 billion.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anybody ever collect any of that. But now that Trump's in office, maybe some of that stuff will start coming through, you know?
Well, I think when you look at these DDA accounts that they stop people from collecting, you know, stuff that, and they're starting prosecuting criminally, I don't believe that those people had actually earned money that was taken from them, that was stolen from them, that they actually had money. I think they were just trying to go straight into it without having produced to get it. And I think that's why they don't collect. I think there's a difference between the two.
The other thing is, if they were in bankruptcy, all those assets are in bankruptcy. So if you wanted to get paid, you probably have to go to the bankruptcy court.
Trustee.
Well, first of all, with mine, okay, my invoices, I sent invoices to the U.S. government for copyright violations, and lots of them. IRS was doing it all along. I filed a commercial lien against the IRS, but everything, it's like a feeding frenzy. They're calling you this a straw man all over the place. They're converting your name into a zip code, your address into a zip code. They're doing all this stuff, and I've recorded this document that says that all of that stuff is going to cost you. And so that's why the invoices to the U.S. government about $2 billion. It's all invoiced. You know, they've agreed to it.
But I wonder,
Now, as far as somebody's DBAs or anything, I have no idea. I have no idea what other people are doing, and I really don't care what other people are doing.
The reason I said it, there's people out there that say, oh, this is my money, I just want to get my money. And I think that attitude is completely against our attitude, which is we want what was stolen from us.
Yeah. There's lots of people at the 1099 OID is a good example of that. They're trying to get something for nothing.
Right, and that's what my example.
Right, I understand. Okay, now what were you saying?
So if they're in bankruptcy, all the assets and value is in bankruptcy court. So you're not filing your demand for payment in the right place. You have to go file it with a trustee of the bankruptcy and the bankruptcy.
Yeah, the receiver or the trustee.
Yeah, but that's the Treasury. You still got to file. The Treasury is the one that's handling all of that, right?
Are they?
I mean, who is
I would
it?
say it's underneath
Who is it?
bankruptcy.
Who is it then? Who is it?
They're the bank, right?
Wait a minute, wait a
Who?
minute.
They're the bank.
Federal Reserve?
Who's the trust
No,
right
the
now?
treasury. I'm saying,
Well,
whoever's
that's
the
what I'm
bank
thinking,
is
it's
the
the
one who's going to
treasury.
be paying.
You would think it would be the Treasury.
If it's under bankruptcy protection or some type
Maybe it's
of,
under, maybe
it
it's
would have to
under,
go through the bankruptcy court.
maybe it's under Trump right now. Because if the Queen is no longer the trustee,